Hello and good morning. Welcome all to the training sessions on the PLM portal web-based electronic application forms. Today's session is aimed for those applicants who have centrally authorized products. Of course, we can also have a look at scenarios where you have an application form that contains both centrally authorized products and non-centrally authorized products, but the main focus today is on CAPS. So here is the agenda for today's morning. So we'll have a quick recap and introduction, and then we'll do a live demo training. So today we will have, let's say, a slightly new approach. So we will soon be launching a poll where you can indicate if there are any particular sections of the form where you would like a specific deep dive. We will have approximately half an hour for questions and answers. As always, there tends to be more questions than we can get through. So please note that we are also organizing a specific Q&A session. We have also very recently published a Q&A document, which is available on the PLM portal website and also through the eSubmissions website. And we should be finished by 11:30 Central European time. And just a few housekeeping notes. Please note, as always, you can use Slido to ask questions, and you can also upvote questions using Slido. So if you see that there are questions that you would like to have an answer, please upvote to those questions. This is, of course, completely voluntary, and you may also wish to remain anonymous, or you can enter your name there if you would like. Please note that, as always, we are recording this session, and of course, we will make it available on EMA's YouTube channel and on the event page after the event. And please note that we are also doing a live broadcast, and you will find the live broadcast link on the event page right now. So here are a few details about Slido. So please either use the QR code or log into the slido.com, and you can then enter the event code eAF 1509. And as I mentioned, you can send your questions, or you can upvote the questions you would like to hear answered today. And then during the Q&A, we will be showing the Q&A on the screen. And as I mentioned, we will be launching a poll in the Slido where you can indicate the sections that you would like to have answered. So this is meant to be very, very interactive session. We would like to make it as useful for you as possible. So please do connect. You can indicate different sections. For example, if you'd like to know how to more efficiently use the updated present and proposed section, we have been making quite some improvements in there during the summer. Perhaps you would like some deep dive into the additional information section, which is something that we don't often talk about in such detail because not everybody needs to fill it in. So please, this is your opportunity to tell us how would you like us to tailor this training for you today.
This poll will remain open until we reach the demo part. And then when we reach the demo part, I will let Christina know what your votes are. And so we can start from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. And of course, as usual, we'll kind of fly through the other sections as well. But if there's anything particular you would like to know, we will, of course, then spend a little bit more time on those ones and have really a deep dive. And if you'd like to have specific questions to those specific sections, then also you can indicate in your questions that they relate to that poll. So here is the aim of the webinar, just to make sure that you are all familiar with the PLM portal, you know how to access it, what are the key points, what have we done recently, still looking at some of our known issues, and then, as I mentioned, we'll have this live demo tailored to your needs, and then we have a little quick look about the next steps, if needed, before the the Q&A, of course. So let's get started. We can go to the next slide. So here, just a quick reminder, why are we doing this? So of course, the interactive PDF forms, they start to be quite outdated and they do take a long time to open. So of course, the aim of this, the reason why we even started to create the PLM portal eAF was to provide a modern web-based input form for the applicants, and of course still continue providing the regulators a human readable, familiar PDF output. And this new PDF output then, of course, contains a new machine-readable XML, which makes digital processing much, much easier. In the interactive PDF, of course, while we are using structured data from OMS, RMS, and SMS, now with the PLM portal application form, we're not only using those three components of SPOR, but we're also selecting the product from PMS. So this is really moving towards ISO DMP FHIR compliant structured data. And of course, this makes procedure management much easier, and hopefully it will also make the application process for you applicants and marketing authorization holders much, much easier. But of course, what doesn't change is the fact that there is still a PDF output. The process, you will include this PDF form inside your ECTD package before you submit. And of course, the actual content of the application form doesn't change. This is the NTA form, so we must follow the requirements from the Commission. We can go to the next slide. And we'll have a quick look at the important dates. So I just wanted to highlight and remind everyone here. So with centrally authorized products, we are already in strongly recommended use since May 2024. So this is now approximately a year and a half later. And when we are in strongly recommended use, of course, the web-based application form should always be the kind of the first form to when you start to filling in your variation application. And only if you cannot use the PLM portal application form, we can go back into the interactive PDF. Now, this quarter, in September, we are also looking to move into strongly recommended use for non-centrally authorized products. So this then means that by end of this quarter, unless something absolutely unexpected happens within the next 2 weeks, we will be in strongly recommended use of the PLM portal for all European human variation applications. Also, we have a very important date approaching, the 25th of September, where we are updating the eAF FHIR to new version 225. And in this new version, we will be making some improvements also to the PDF and, of course, the FHIR itself. And of course, we are continuing incremental release of new features and performance improvements. And we are also behind the scenes continuing to explore structured changes in the eAF. And let's have a look at what we have done this summer. So we had quite some objectives for the summer quarter, which is the Q3 this year. So we have now enabled the form to be used or to have two different versions at the same time available in the PLM portal. And this is really important achievement because, of course, as I'm sure you all have heard, the new variation regulation has also brought us a new classification guideline. So, of course, this new guideline, when it enters into force on the 15th of January 2026, you will need to submit all the new variations that are submitted on the 15th of January or thereafter using the new version of the form. And of course, anything that has started prior to the 15th of January next year will then continue to be using the existing variation classification guidelines. So hence we need to have two different versions of the form live at any one time. So if you need to update a form for a procedure that you have already submitted prior to the January date, you can continue using the previous version. And then if you already, even before the 15th of January, want to start filling in an application form using the new classification guideline, that new form will be then, the new version form will be available, and you can already start preparing for your submissions after the 15th of January. So I will be giving you a very quick demo on that. We also have linked into an existing OMS entity. So now you can, especially in the present and proposed section, you are now able to retrieve the OMS data directly from OMS. As some of you may be aware, we have a known issue where we are using OMS data through an iris data layer, which is not always up to date. So in some cases, we have been forced to ask you to use the interactive PDF because of this issue. Now we have fixed it in present and proposed section, and in the coming quarter, we are hoping to expand this, let's say, a workaround solution into other sections of the form, so that there will be less incidents where we would have to ask you to use the interactive PDF eAF. We have also been implementing remaining improvements to the present and proposed section. So now, for example, you can enlarge just the present section or just the proposed section. So this should make entering the data into the form much more easy and more user-friendly. And we're also improving the product selection. We have already done a minor improvement there. And in this quarter, so before end of September, there should be further improvements coming to the product selection section. We can go to the next page. And here, just a quick reminder again on the, indeed, what the strongly recommended use for all variations means. So it really means that the web-based eAF should be used in most cases. So the interactive PDF should be only used if specific constraints, issues, bugs prevent the use of the web-based eAF. So there may be technical issues or missing features, or maybe some corrupted data. So please try and use the PLM portal form as much as you can, and also relay the information to your colleagues and trade associations. If there are still CAP applications that are using the interactive PDF, we really would like to see the PLM portal form used more. And it is very, very important to do this, even though we are not yet in the mandatory use. But this will help us to prepare ourselves for the mandatory use, but it will also give us better use case and better justification internally when we are looking at prioritization of different products and different features. So then when we have a good number of usage of the PLM portal form, we can justify the taking the time and the effort to implement, for example, the structured data, and also to start working on the initial marketing authorization application form. So there we can easily then show that the PLM portal form is popular and can be used in almost all scenarios. We can continue to the next slides. This is just a really quick note to show. Up to today, we have received or how many forms have been prepared. So for the non-caps, we can't, of course, see how many forms have been submitted because they're not submitted to the EMA. But this number is now quickly increasing since the non-caps use went live in February this year. And for centralized procedure, up to today, over 6,000 forms have been created in the PLM portal, and we have received at the EMA in production use more than 3,200 application forms. So this is a nice number. It represents today approximately 50 to 70% of all variation applications that are submitted for centralized procedure. We would, of course, like to see that number going higher, and we would like to see that as close to, let's say, 90% as possible before end of this year, because, of course, we are in strongly recommended use, and the limitations with some data issues and OMS issues should not be more than 10% of the cases. We can move to the next page. So here, these I kind of mentioned already as a part of our objectives already. So the form versioning is available. There are improvements to the product selections, and more are coming. And then in the present and proposed, we have the organization selection directly from OMS. We have enhanced editing, which means kind of also easier view of the present and proposed sections. We have removed the option to do the semi-structured changes for the ATC code, as that wasn't working too well. And you're now able to order the sections in present and proposed. So when we talk about sections, this means the fields for free text fields and the address fields in the present and proposed. At this moment, it is only available in the UI. So when you're actually working on your form, you can do these changes in the user interface, but in the PDF, they're not yet available. So the sections stay as they are. However, after the Fire deployment on the 25th, also in the PDF export, we can see the sections of the form in the correct order. We can move to the next slide, and just a very quick glance of the known issues. So there are some still, unfortunately, some corrupted products. So these are affecting both centrally authorized products and non-centrally authorized products. We have been working really hard with our colleagues from PMS and also colleagues from the IRIS data layer, through which we get the products from PMS. So the number of corrupted centrally authorized products should be a lot smaller now, but there still are some corrupted products, and unfortunately there are still some duplicate products. And as I mentioned, we have these organizational data issues. So we are working very closely with colleagues across the agency to address this, but all these issues are not really issues that the eAF team can solve or fix, because these are issues that other systems impose to the eAF. So, for example, with the organizational data issues, as I mentioned earlier, we are now in some sections retrieving data directly from OMS as a kind of workaround to that issue, and we will continue on working not only on the final real fix, but also adding more of those workaround fixes where we can. And just again, a quick reminder: if you have an issue, please always use the EMA service now through the service desk, so you can ask questions, you can report incidents, and of course, if you have consolidated feedback, for example, from your trade association or from your company, and you would like to have, for example, some bigger improvement suggestion, please feel free to send us those via email also, so we understand the change requests are not really always suitable to be sent through the service desk. So in those cases, you can of course contact us via email as well. And very importantly, if you have issues related to the OMS data or organizational aspects, please raise a ticket, but select OMS as the system. Or if you have product issues, so the products are not appearing correctly, please raise them as PMS issues, because when issues are reported using incorrect product or system in the service now, it may lead to delays in the response. And of course, also bear in mind, if you are reporting an issue on the interactive PDF, which is the old eAF from the eSubmissions website, please ensure that you are selecting the eSubmissions and then interactive PDF eAF rather than reporting issues on the interactive PDF as the PLM portal form, because then this confuses the service desk team and again can cause delays. But let's go forward. And now, before we start navigating, let's have a look at the poll. Do we have any favorites for the deep dive today?
Yes, the favorite is present and proposed. Then it's followed very closely by the add package and then product selection. So I would say present and proposed and then add package. And if you have time, product selection.
Brilliant. Thank you. So I will now start the live demo. And of course, the live demo in a way, of course, even starts from the product selection. So that's fine. But before we get to the product selection, I would actually like to show you. So this is now our UAT environment. So just a very quick reminder, if you want to test, you don't need to register to use the UAT environment. We always encourage everybody to go straight to the production system, because that's where you will have the best quality product data and all the latest products available. So there's absolutely no need to use UAT environment for any testing purposes if you are an applicant or marketing authorization holder. You can directly use our production environment. Why I'm here now in the UAT environment is because I wanted to show you a new feature that is not yet available in the production. So if we are we want to create a new form, so I can click here or I can select it from here. Both lead into exactly the same screen. And here, so as usual, we have the variation form human defaulted, and now you see something new here, which is called form version. In production, you already have this, but today it's defaulted to something called current. So here we have added a new drop-down selection. So, of course, these names will be made more meaningful when we go into production with the new version. But we will have, for example, today the default is the current classification guideline. And in the future version, you would have the new classification guideline. So we will make sure that the information text and the version name will be very, very clear so that you will know which version you're selecting. So let's imagine it is now the 20th of January 2026, and we have an ongoing variation for which we have just received a request to update the variation application form. In that case, we would need to choose the old version. So perhaps it is here as the version September 2021, because that is what the NTA form is called. We will also put the old version number there. We would select that option. If it is, again, the 20th of January 2026, but we have a brand new variation application that we want to start creating, we would select the future. So this will then be the new classification guideline that has just entered into force on the 15th of January. We will name these clearly, but this is just simply to show you that there are two options, because you may need to continue editing or updating the previously created form that has already been submitted before entering into force of the new classification guideline. What is very, very important to note here, you cannot change the version. So also if you are using the cloning features, you cannot clone from the previous version to the new version. So unfortunately, you would then, if you have a template, you would need to create a new template. if this becomes a difficulty and we receive a lot of feedback from users even prior to this change, we are keen to hear that. But today we have not yet been able to make that possible because, again, it is technically more difficult to be able to clone across different versions of the forms. But it is simply you will select a different the version that you need and you proceed. You will see in there, if you haven't yet created the form, at that point, you have an ability still to change it, like so. Then again, you will enter your form name and you will select your reference MAH. So you will normally have on a number of organizations, possibly only one, depending on your role and how many different organizations you're affiliated to, or you may have multiple organizations and you then select the organization for which you are now creating the form and you will proceed. And as usual, after I click create and next, I am no longer able to change the reference MAH and I am no longer able to change the form version. But even after creating the form, I can always update the friendly name. So we could then click here and move to the next. I won't do that now here in the test environment, but I will move now into our production system here, and we can now start to create a new form on this side. So today in production, you can see again, the default version is there. You can see the form version, but you cannot change it. We will do, we'll give the form a meaningful name. And we will select the reference MAH. Because of my profile, I will need to search for the MAH. You would always have this list already presented to you by default. And we click create and next. And at this point, we cannot change the reference MAH anymore. At this point, we can add co-authors. So these are colleagues who we would like to invite to work with us on the form. So you can add co-authors from your own organization. Normally, they would be already listed here, or you can invite a colleague from outside your own organization, and you can then you would search them by adding their email address, and then you can notify those users. We won't do that now for the benefit of time, and we will move forward to the product selection. So here, we will be changing this. So in future, you wouldn't need to click here to select the product, but the empty product grid will already directly open for you. But today we still click here, select product. Here we currently have a show of 10 rows. I tend to always change this before I even start searching because 10 is quite a small number. But if you know that you're searching or you're creating an application form for just a couple of medicinal products, 10 may be sufficient and you don't need to do that. You can then add details here. So if there's a specific product that you would like to look for, you can search using the product name and you can click search. So if you need to drill, if you have multiple products and you're not, and you only want those particular products, you can then make the search more detailed and then you only get those products here. So again, if this particular variation is only for these particular medicinal products, you can also confirm and have a look at the details from the from the lower section, and the improvement that I mentioned we've already done. We've removed the tick box here. There was a tick box here that you couldn't tick that caused quite a lot of confusion. We have now taken it out, so it's no longer there, and you can then simply either select the specific medicinal products that you would like, or all of the medicinal products that you have here. And you can, of course, always filter these further. At that point, we can either clear the search, and maybe we have other products that we would like to add. We can search further, either using the active substance name. So there are other products, perhaps not centrally authorized products, or other centrally authorized products that we would like to add. We can see the products that we have already selected indicated with the blue tick, and then we can select another product, and we can then click Save. And now the system is saving the products. Meanwhile, while the products are being saved, we will get this maintenance pop-up here, which will prevent us to do other functionalities. This is to make sure that all the products are correctly saved and there is a data sync going on between the different systems. So we don't want you to, for example, start cloning the application form before all the product data has been saved into this application form. Now we can see the list of the products presented here, and we can look at the details of each medicinal product here to make sure that we have selected the correct products. Now, I'm getting this arrow here because we have actually selected an MRP product. Let's say we did that by accident. Of course, you saw me selecting and searching that product. But if we at this point realize we have done a selection that we should have not done, we can then click back to select products. Admittedly, slightly confusing as we're not selecting more products, but we want to delete a product. So here we will click View Selected Products, which means that we can see all the products that we have selected into this application form, and we can now remove this product that is not part of this application. So in order to remove a product, you will go to Select Products, and then you view Selected Products, and then we can save. So removing the product, you do kind of the reverse of what you would do when you are adding a product. And then again, we will wait for the maintenance pop-up to go away. And now we can check there are no non-centrally authorized products included here. At this point, we can validate and see that all the products are okay, and we get the green tick here. It is now also possible to collapse this site, so you get a little bit more space to view the products. You can also change the column visibility. So for example, if you don't care to see the MPID, for example, we can remove that. And similarly, when we are selecting the products, we can amend the column visibility. I don't know, Isabella or Francesca, do we have any specific questions already related to product selection?
I'm passing through the questions, but maybe let's focus on the question later on.
Sure.
And if you finished with the presentation of the presenter proposed, we can move to the second most voted item.
So this was the product selection. So I will very, very quickly just show the types of changes so that we can look at the present and proposed, because we can't do the present and proposed demo before I have selected a types of change. So with selecting the scope, today I will select C16, which is adding a new indication. So this is a type 2 variation. I'm selecting this so that I can also very quickly show you the additional information section. So we will click select. Of course, only the procedure types relevant to each specific classification scope will be available, and we will see the details here. If I had selected, for example, a type 1A, I would need to provide information on the date, on the implementation date, and some classification scopes have got even conditions and documentations list that I would need to indicate here. And I will click save. So this is very, very similar to the interactive PDF. So I won't go into a huge amount of detail, but just to mention, so in here, when we are live with the two different versions, and you have selected then the new classification guideline, so in here you will then see the new scopes from the new classification guideline. Today, these are, of course, the current scopes. Very quickly here, if we realize we've made a mistake, we can delete the scope, we can also edit the scope, and we can, of course, also clone the scope. So instead of having to click there twice, we can very, very quickly and easily clone the scope. So if you have a variation application where you have multiple times the same scope, so for example, now we're approaching the end of the year, and one of the new changes that came in the amended variation regulation was the annual notification. This is the first time, this year is the first time when you have kind of mandatory use of the annual notification for CAP applications. So you may have multiple times the same scope. So this is especially where the cloning of the scopes becomes very, very convenient. Again, you can edit them individually if you have different details for each scope. And of course, you can delete, or you can even clone a cloned scope. So we will now move to the procedural information, just to fly through, just to show you in here. So here you don't need to manually enter. The system knows that we have selected centrally authorized products. They are human use. Because I selected two scopes, I am now showing here it's a grouping. Here we could select that it includes a line extension, but work sharing and supergrouping are automatically calculated, as is the procedure type here. So now here, if in the changes concerns, I indicate that this is a new indication. Let's say we have some pediatric requirements, and I could indicate other things here. And this is what determines, in many cases, which sections will appear in the additional information section. So additional information section is basically in the interactive PDF, your sections for A, B, and C. We will, of course, here now have this ability to select an alternative company name. It is just the other names of the same organizations that appear in OMS. Currently, this is the way how you would select them. Of course, as I've selected as my MAH, the agency, we cannot select an alternative name. I would, however, need to provide a phone number and email address. And I would also add contact details here. Because this is a CAP application, I cannot change the member state. This application applies to all countries in the EU. So this is not, the member state is not to indicate the country from where the applicant is from. It is to indicate the member state for which the products are from. So we can fill in all these details, and again, the company name. Here you would need to search for your organization. This is not auto-filled in the contact person, because it could indeed be from a different organization. So, and done. And because this is a centralized procedure application, I can only add one contact person. Now you can see that this is now grayed out. I cannot add more, but I can edit or I can remove in case I've made a mistake. So we'll save, validate, and we move now to the proposed changes. So this is the section that was voted for the deep dive. So in here, let's say the first page is not changed. I will collapse the side so we'll get a little bit more space. So here in the scope and background for change, I would add the details of this change. So here you might have quite a lot of text. And then here you would, for example, explain. So if this is now, again, an annual notification, so this is something that you would be submitting to the agency, this is where you would indicate that this is an annual notification. There is no specific tick box in the procedural information section, but you would simply indicate here, because annual notification, it is a grouping, so you would indicate the details here. Of course, this is not a type 1A, so it's not relevant, but you would indicate the details in here. So justification, for example, would be included in here. At this point, we can save. If we don't save here and we enter, proceed to add the present and proposed changes, you will get a notification asking, would you like to save? As I already saved, we can now select from the scopes. I have 2 times the same scope, so I will just select one of these now. And I click done. And I can then proceed to add the different sections. I can also here edit and add package. This is some of the things that the add package was indicated as for the deep dive. So we have a look at that with the other scope. But let's have a look at here. So we can add the section title. The section title is simply to help you to edit the form, but it is also there to indicate if you have, for example, multiple different free text boxes in the present and proposed. So let's say you have changes to the SPC. You may want to indicate that this is the section 1.2 of SPC, for example, or whatever that would help you and the receiving regulator to understand what it is. Today in the PDF, the section title is not yet shown, but after the 25th of September, as I mentioned, we are doing an important improvement to the fire specification. It is because we wanted to also improve the PDF. So from there on, instead of the PDF saying simply text in the left-hand panel, it will actually give you the section title just above. So here, I will add here test 1 to also show you how we can move the sections up and down. So I will click done. And I will now get the present and proposed fields. So again, I can hide that outline to get a little bit more space here for my present and proposed. But we have received quite a lot of feedback that this is still not quite good enough. So now you can see here, I have a drop-down menu here that lets me choose either present and proposed, just present, or just proposed. So I will now show the present. And now I get a bigger area to work. So if in case I have a table or images, I can add a lot of details here, but this is the present details. So I can add a table here. Or I can, of course, copy and paste text from another document. I can then edit the text if I need to. So, or I could add an image. I can then move to the present or the proposed section, or I can save here. Now I will just simply go into the proposed. So now I'm in the proposed. If I want to see the outline, I can do that. So yes, I'm in section 1 and I can hide that outline again. And here again, I could, for example, if I want to save a little bit work for myself, I can copy and paste this here in the present. I can then edit this further, underline. I can add more details into the table. Example here. Where's my table? Here. I can add another table. So I have a table inside a table. Like so. And now I have the present and proposed next to each other. And now I want to have more space to work on my proposed. So this is how you would do it. So you have different options here for editorial changes, whatever they may be. Adding images, using all these different editorial options. Now, in this case, just to show you with the organizations, I again go to the present and proposed, and then I click here to indicate that I am adding a present and proposed organization. So again, in here, I can choose to show the present and proposed organization, or just present or just proposed. I will leave this for the present and proposed, and I will select an organization here. I could also, in the present section, select from an inactive locations. So, click done. Select. And now, because I clicked done, but I haven't selected a proposed organization, I have to go here. So we have tried to include these details for that will help you to fill in the form correctly. And now I'm selecting the proposed organization. Now I need to scroll down to click select, and now both organizations are here. I see the present, and I can see the proposed, and I can see both of them. And I can, of course, add the details for those organizations, but for the benefit of time, I will just click save. And now we can see both organizations here. Now I can, if I have the outline out, I can now add another section. So now I can add, so this is adding another text box here. So I click done. And now I can add details here. Again, I could do some editing if I needed to. And I can add another organization here. So let's say this time I'm not adding a present organization. I'm only adding a proposed organization in this time. I will have to select the proposed organization from OMS. As always, I will select and I click done. So here, now we have the two sections. I have section 1 and section 2. And now I realize, actually, this should have come first. So I will click here, and you can now see what I call test 2 is now on the first place. We can, of course, always rename this section. So, and now we can see the new name. And from after the 25th of September, you will also see these section names in the PDF export. There is also a possibility to rename from here or here, depends how you prefer to do it. And of course, we can also delete a section. We can see the organizations. So, and then we can click save. Now we need to go back and select the other scope. As you remember, I've only selected one scope. We have two different scopes and I have only selected one. So now I click here, add changes, to add the details of this other change. So here you can see variation type 2. The first one that we did was indicated with 1, and this is the second one. So I click here and selected 1, and we can go forward. Might have noticed there was a little eye icon there in the previous menu. So there you could also see the details of that specific variation that you have selected. So if you added some specific details in the section earlier, you can then check that that is the correct one. And now I will declare that this doesn't result into any changes in manufacturers. And I can go and add section, or here I can go edit and add package. So now here I have, because this is a centralized procedure application, I don't have to select all of these scopes for this particular variation. I can simply select one of them. So maybe I select this one from this particular medicinal product. I will select this one from this medicinal product, this one here, and this one here. And I won't select those at all. And I will click done. Then if I go back here, edit and add package, let's imagine this is a different change now. So for example, I had another one here. So I could then go, and as I mentioned here, you remember I mentioned the eye icon, we can look at the scope details here. If we had added anything specific there, I can click done. And if I now want to add the sections with the details, I can give it the section titles, maybe here, and add text here. And as we have declared, there are no changes to the organizations. I can simply save. Like so now if we realize that we actually wanted to add a package, but it is not for this particular scope, but it is for the other scope, we can always go back. We can have a look at the changes here. So this is some of the what I feel one of the most useful things that is now available is this view button here. So remember when we were working on the first section for the first variation. So I moved around sections. I can click and view them quickly and easily here in the same page. I don't need to go back to the main section for the editing yet. I can just quickly check everything is correct. Did I do all the changes? Good. Everything looks good here. I can also change what I see here. So if I want to look at something in more detail, but also please don't be alarmed if you have changed and you can only see the proposed, you may have this setting on. So this is something new. So this present and proposed. So we can see that there, and we can close it from there, or we can close it from the button there. So now if we want to go and edit, so we actually wanted an add a package. So we go back here, we say add package, and then we click here, add package. So here we can select the parent medicinal product. So if we are adding a package that is, for example, just another pack size to one of these already existing medicinal products, like so, I will select that. I will enter the MA number here. if I know it. And I will enter the details of the new pack size here. Like so, whatever the details are, of course, this is just a test. So you would enter the real details there. And then here we will see what I have just added. So you can see this is the new entry and the status is pending. And delete this if we realize it's not correct. Can leave it, select it, and we can click done. And you can repeat, of course, the adding package. So you can add as many as you need to. So that's it. Again, we will save. And now we have these changes here. And we go back to the home page. And we can view the changes. So we have the first section here, the second section here, the details. Here we cannot see, of course, the list of products. So the added package is not visible here, but of course you would add in the present and proposed the details also of the addition. And then we can see the second part, the second variation, and we can see the details here. Like so. And that's the updated present and proposed section. I hope that was helpful. If there are other questions, we can always come back to this section and have a look at that after the demo. And just super quickly, we'll look at the additional information section. There has been some improvements here. And as you remember, in procedural information, I selected indication, I selected pediatric. So now here I will get these sections. So of course, because I selected this a new indication, I need to provide details of the new indication. I can select the orphan procedure from here. So of course, I could search for one, add it. We can provide information relating to the orphan market exclusivity. We can add orphan designation number. But again, of course, you can search, you can add multiple, or you can remove if you realize you've selected incorrect one. Has any of the designated products been granted and marketing authorization in the EU? Now here you can select also products from different organizations, not only from your own organization. So, and we can see the details of the authorization product, the medicinal product, and the packaged medicinal product. We can then indicate if it's a similar product. We say no. We can include the pediatric details. So you can select the pediatric entitlement. We're nearly at the end of the time of the demo, so I'm rushing through, but please, if there are specific questions about this section, do indicate that in the Slido and we can come back here. Here, there's no extended data exclusivity, so I will just simply click not applicable. Now you can see I can just, even though the save button is not here at the bottom, but if I scroll tiny bit up, I get the buttons here. So it's handy. I don't need to scroll back and forwards. We can validate. See if there's an issue or if that's a bit of a bug. And we will move here into the finalization because this is a new indication. I will have to provide details here. Then we'll fill in all these details here. We will indicate when the changes will be implemented. And we fill in the declaration. we would then, of course, fill in, because this is a type 2 variation. So then if we need to indicate any details in the proof of payment, we will add it here. So we'll click add organization and we can add the details about the payment here. Or if we don't want to add any details on the payment, it's not relevant, I will simply click here. Are you sure you want to delete this record? Yes, delete. And the proof of payment section will not be displayed in the PDF. Then we will fill in details for the signatories. Please note you don't sign the form here. Here you indicate the details of the person whose signature will be included in the form or not included in the form, depending if you're signing the form or not. Here, do that, and we will save. Validate. Let's see what is problem with the section here. I filled in all the sections. So here, we have not filled in all the sections, so now we have to go back. Now when we save, validate, and we will then be able to go back to the finalization, and we can then finalize the form. So in order to finalize the form, I need to have all the sections ticked green. Now we're just exporting the application. Normally, you would, of course, want to probably export the form first, check that everything looks correct and as it should be before you finalize. But in order to save time, and I wanted to show you the finalization, and just a quick reminder. So as I mentioned there, you don't sign the form in the system. You actually sign the form after you have exported the form. Now, I heard that we had a little production issue. I hope that the fix had already been deployed into production, but it seems that unfortunately the export failed. My colleagues are working on this fix. So if you are in production and your export is failing, we are aware. I took a chance and I hoped it had been fixed. It hadn't been fixed now. No worries. If it had been fixed, I will just show you quickly how a PDF looks when it has been exported from the system. This is not the same form that I just filled in. As you know, it just failed, but I just wanted to quickly show you that the details appear on the form as entered, and especially in the types of changes section from that form, but here. So we can see the details of the scope. And for example, in here today, as I mentioned, we still have text, but in future, this column will go away. So we will get a little bit more space for present and proposed, and the details will appear here above. And the ordering will also show you the text boxes and the organizations in the correct order and not below each other. So today, if you export, you will get the text boxes next to each other and the present and proposed organizations underneath each other. If you have in the same section, of course, for different variation scope, they will be separated. But in here, this will be then nicely organized in the way you have entered the data once we have deployed the fix. And quickly to show you the signatures. So this is what I entered manually, but then when we finalize, we will get this integrity stamp to the form, which is here. This integrity stamp is also, you can see easily that you have that, because when you open the form with Adobe, it gives this signature panel. So this is a system signature. If your company requires additionally a signature, you would add it here using another qualified digital signature tool. It is not possible to add here an Adobe signature of an image of a signature. EMA does not require an additional signature if you have this integrity stamp, but if your company policy requires one, you could, of course, export the form, add your signature, and keep that version on file in case you would ever need that. But you do not need to submit that to EMA. If it's a non-cap application and the regulator requires that, you can then save the exported version without the integrity stamp, add the signature. If your company only has an Adobe signature, for example, you can save the form with the name annex to the application form. Then the name of the annex could be a signed copy of the application form, and you include that annex into the ECTD package. You do not need to do that for centralized procedures. So that's no need. You can keep it in file for your internal purposes. But I now stop the demo. We're a little bit over. Apologies for that. But we'll start with the questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Didn't want to interrupt you, but we received a couple of questions regarding the demo. So let me share the screen and jump to these questions. To all users, we'll follow the order of the most voted question to answer. So if you are interested, please review the list and put the thumbs. So we'll try to answer them within this time. So this first question is regarding the marketing authorization. So please let's check it. Non-cap from Greece, I guess. In product details tab, MAH number is visible. However, Greek AH have requested to use eAF product code in the eAF. Code remains unchanged throughout the life cycle of the MP. Can the eAF code be accommodated in eAF in place of the MAH number?
If the product code is provided in XEVMPD as the MA number, then that is indeed the number that would come through to the application form and would be displayed in that column. Fortunately, now I can't remember how it is for Greece. Is that the actual requirement? Is that how the details are submitted to XEVMPD? But we can check that later. I can see there's a interest on that question, so we can certainly add that detail, for example, into Q&A or provide that detail in another session. But yes, if it is in the MA number field, that's where it will come to the fore.
Okay, let's move to the following question. What date will be mandatory to use the eAF PLM portal for CAPS?
That's a very, very good question. As I mentioned, we are in strongly recommended use, so we can consider that kind of pseudo-mandatory use. So basically, you should use it if you can. Of course, there are situations where you can't, but we very, very strongly recommend that you use it for all CAP applications where possible. We do not yet have a mandatory date, and this is because we are waiting for colleagues from PMS and from IRIS Dataverse side to fix the issues that I mentioned there in the known issues. So today, in some cases, there are some centrally authorized products that have got data issues. And these data issues cannot be fixed by the eAF team. So in those cases, we would be forced to ask you to use the interactive PDF. Or in some cases, for example, when there are merges of organizations, the organizational data does not appear correctly in the PLM portal eAF. And again, in those cases, we may have to ask you to use the interactive PDF. So for those reasons, we cannot mandate the use. We have discussed, would it be meaningful to mandate if there are no technical barriers, but that would become quite laborious for us to check upon receipt if it was a technical issue or if you just chose to use the interactive PDF. So we have, in a way, chosen to be slightly more flexible by not announcing a mandatory date where you don't have any technical issues. But we do ask you to start using the form as soon as possible, like it was mandatory.
Thank you, Christina, for the clarification. Next question states, how to update medical device details in eAF forms for CAPS?
Very good question. And apologies, I completely overlooked that in the present and proposed. So perhaps I share very, very quickly. It is indeed, again, one of those areas of the form that it is not always relevant. So let's go back to the proposed section. So the medical devices are filled in.
Sorry, I'm still sharing it, Christina. So...
Oh, okay. Well, actually...
No, please.
That's okay, because for some reason I have a bit of a delay here, so I'm not yet where I wanted to be, but there we go. It's just perfectly waking up as I took the screen. Now I hope you can see it. It's loading. Please wait. Apologies for that. It is a little bit slow. Let's go to into the UAT environment. And I will very, very quickly show you here. Now I will also show you here how to access a form that has been already created before. So I will look for my form and I will open it. Here we go to the present and proposed. It's behaving slightly more slow than expected, but again, this is the UAT environment. So in here, in this section under present and proposed, you can see medical device, and this is where you will enter the details on the medical device. So of course you would have selected a relevant classification scope in select scope section, and then you come here to fill in the details on the device. So this could be a change to an existing device, or this could be adding a new device. To apologize, it is behaving slightly slow and we don't have a huge amount of time. A little bit conscious on that. I will stop sharing and perhaps we will make sure that we'll add good details on the medical devices section in the guidance document, and I'll also we could prepare another video on that we will add into our PLM portal guidance section. Apologies for that.
Absolutely, Christina, well noted. Let's move on to the next question. In some cases, one MAH number is still CAP level, even if there are different MAH number. In PMS document, it is resolved in Q3, but not resolved. Is there any new timelines for that?
Yes, so indeed, for some products, this is the case. And this is, of course, definitely more of a case for non-CAPs than it is for CAPs. So there is the MA number may be at the medicinal product level, and then the same MA number may be appearing at the packaged medicinal product. So as eAF does not really, we just get what we take. So I do not have any specific detail on that, but I would suggest to raise this question as a PMS question through the ServiceNow portal. But for eAF purposes, it doesn't really matter. We display the number on the form. Nevertheless, if it comes from the, we're actually displaying the package level number in the eAF.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Sometimes data quality in PMS is not promising, so how can we trust to use the data in web-based form for the same?
Indeed. So this is exactly the reason why we are not yet mandating the form. So of course, it's important to remember the data that comes from PMS. For centrally authorized products, it is the combination of data from our internal system called SciMed and from xEVMPD. For non-centrally authorized products, it is the data from xEVMPD. So it is the data that has been provided by the MAHs themselves. So sometimes there are some synchronization errors. Sometimes there are bugs in the system that mess up with the data. But in some cases, the data, in, let's say, majority of the cases, the data is exactly what has been provided through xEVMPD. So if you see something funny, I also recommend to check with xEVMPD and perhaps update the entry, and then the updated entry will be reflected in the eAF. But if you have concerns on PMS data, please do raise a ticket through ServiceNow.
Perfect. The next question, you showed it during the demo. How can we easily add tables to present and proposed?
Indeed. So you add additional sections. You can add as many sections as you would like. Now you can order the sections also. So this is simply the way of adding tables. But if you're talking about tables as in like an Excel type of table, you can either copy and paste them from another document, or you can add a table in that section.
Perfect. Moving to the following question. How should we fill in present and proposed organization when manufacturing site is proposed for deletion from the dossier, scope A.7?
That's a really good question. And thank you for that, because I actually wanted to talk about that while I was talking about the organizations. So today, if you have a deletion, so you would indicate, I have no change of an organization, and you simply include the details of that organization in the free text fields. In Q4, hopefully relatively early in Q4, we are implementing a change where we add a tick box and you say this is a deletion, and that will override the business rule where you must include an organization in the proposed section. So you will actually select the organization from OMS for the present, and then in the proposed, you don't need to provide an organization. So we are making an improvement there so that you can indicate that you're deleting an organization in a better, more meaningful way. So this is something that we are working on.
Thank you, Cristina. The next question states how to get credentials to apply for other MAHs.
That's a very good question. So in order to be affiliated to another marketing authorization holder or another organization, you will need to go to EMA Access Management System. So the EMA's system for this, and you would need to request a role, and you would need to request an affiliation to that other organization. Then the applicant or from the person from that organization who is managing the access to eAF will then approve your access. And there are different access levels when you are working on behalf of another MAH. So you can have a different type of role for your own organization. So for example, you can be an applicant manager for one organization and simply a co-author for another organization, or you can be a coordinator for one, manager for another, and a co-author for a third one.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The next question states, could you please precise if it still will be possible to use the eAF PDF after January 15th, applicability of new variation guideline?
Yes, it will be indeed. We are making in parallel the same change for the interactive PDF eAF because we could have a data issue or this OMS data layer issue even after 15th of January. So unfortunately, we'll have to do double work and we have to update both the interactive eAF, PDF eAF and the PLM portal form. So if you are using the interactive PDF, please don't, of course, change the form version in the middle of a procedure. So yes, it is possible.
Great. Next question is about product selection. If only 50 products can be selected, does that mean we have to create 2 or more forms? Will EMA and CA accept this approach? Will SEP's system accept this approach?
No worries at all. You can always select more than 50 products. The 50 products is at any one time. This is a performance improvement, or let's say performance a management thing. So you will choose 50 products, you click save, you select next 50 products, you click save, you select as many times as you need to. I have tested and I think I've added about 600 medicinal products. So you can just single form. You don't need to create more forms. No, just one. It's just at any one time, and then you save. We tested, and if you in the past when there was no kind of filter for that, and you selected 300 products, then it would time out, and then it would crash the form. So that's why we added this 50 products limitation, but you can repeat the 50 products.
Great. That was really clear. The next question. Why will you not add a separate tick box for annual updates? Wouldn't it make it easier for both EMA and NCAs to know from initial look at the eAF that it concerns an annual update?
We have discussed this with the regulatory affairs, and there is no need. An annual update is simply a grouped variation. You really don't need to, EMA business does not need to know from the form itself. But please, of course, you need to provide this level of detail in the cover letter and in the justification. So there is a section already in the form that says justification for grouping. A justification for grouping is that this is an annual update. So this is where you would include it. So this has been discussed quite extensively, and EMA Business has repeatedly said they do not want a separate tick box. It is not relevant. It is not a different procedure type. It is just a level of additional information that can be included in an existing field.
Thank you for the clarification. Next question. Could we copy tables and graph from Word file and copy it into the text boxes?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. So this is definitely something that you can do. And hopefully now when we've done this change, you're able to work on just the present and just the proposed. It becomes a little bit easier because you've got a whole screen to work on. Of course, there are cases when the information to be provided in present and proposed, it's so complex. It has so many different, enormously huge tables or graphs. Of course, in those cases, you can use an annex. But please think when it's meaningful to use an annex. And of course, when you're providing information that in future will be considered as structured information, this is something that we will be in future, of course, requiring to be filled in the present and proposed fields themselves. Today, it is still okay in quite a few cases to say see annex, but of course we would like to see as much information on the present and proposed fields, because if you just say see annex, any automation that we may have to fill in this data from present and proposed into another system cannot go to the annex and open the annex and then retrieve the information from there. So that's why we're kind of emphasizing that details should be entered into the present and proposed for future automation purposes. But yes, they definitely can be copied in there.
Related to this question, we have the following one, which states, even there will be an improved present versus proposed section, will be still acceptable the word PVP as annex attachment to the eAF?
Yes, as I just mentioned, indeed, there are scenarios where you would need to do that, and it is definitely acceptable.
Great. Thank you very much. Can we create a templates form so with pre-populated data such as MAH contact details?
You can. You definitely can. So you can create a form that has, for example, some of the details always already filled in, and you just simply clone that form. But please bear in mind, now that we are approaching the period of time when the new classification guideline is soon coming, you cannot then clone the old classification guideline version and use that for the new one. There you'd have to create a new template, but yes, you can. So basically, a little bit what you would have done with the interactive PDF. You fill in certain details, you save that as a copy that you always use it as a template. You can do the same. You can save it in your drafts and then just clone that every time you need to fill in a new form.
Perfect. Last question, since we have not much time, this is even a bit out of scope since it's targeting non-caps, but I'll go for it. Is the web eAF for non-caps already accepted by all NCAs?
Yes. None of the NCAs has informed us that they do not accept. So all NCAs should accept. There was an issue with the Italian authority earlier this summer, but they have also solved their issue already in July. So we are not aware of any NCAs not accepting the PLM portal form. If you hear of anything such, please do let us know, and we can then immediately contact that authority. And just for the next one, with regards to the XEVMP changes, they are normally reflected in PMS in about 1 day.
Perfect. I will maybe now ask Teresa to open the feedback within the Slido, and I kindly request to all the participants to insert the feedback to help us indeed structuring the following sessions, training and Q&A sessions. For the question we haven't answered, I remember we have planned some coming Q&A sessions, so please make sure to join them. And last note, I wanted to mention also that we have training materials and user guidance available at these links. We will be sharing into the event page the slides where you can access these links, which are on the PLM portal in any case, so if you want to start jumping into these materials. With this, I leave you the floor, Christina, for the closing remarks.
Thank you very much for everybody who joined today. Thank you for great questions. Some of them reminded me about points that I wanted to have mentioned during the demo. So this has been great interactive session. And please, as mentioned by Francesco, we do have upcoming Q&A clinics. Please feel free to join these. We, of course, this week already have the quarterly system demo as well. We have a short slot there too. But please do follow us and send any of your questions to the Q&A clinic. So those are interactive sessions where we can look at really a specific part. So if you want to, for example, look at how to fill in the medical devices, this is where we can do that as well. But I promise I will do a video on that section. Thank you all, and I wish you a very good week and rest of the day. Thank you.